Firstly, Suzanne, Maurice, welcome. Thanks very much for joining us today. It's fantastic having both of you on the Connected Coaches webinar. It's awesome that you are willing to share your knowledge with myself, because I'm also always learning every week when I interact with coaches, as well as with our guests today. So thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Grant. Great to be part of this initiative.
Maurice, I must just say your moustache at the moment is phenomenal. I'll give you that a 10 out of 10.
Thanks, man. I don't have the full beard going like you, so I have to work with what I have.
I can see that lockdown has treated you well in the moustache realm. Great. Okay, we're gonna jump straight into it, ladies and gentlemen, and we're gonna chat first, or the first theme that we're gonna talk about is our coaches' coaching journeys. And because we have two coaches on today, we thought that for this slide it will be a little bit easier just to break it up. Suzanne is gonna chat first about her coaching journey, followed by Maurice, and then we'll get into the rest of the themes. So Suzanne, over to you. If you wouldn't mind just letting us know where your coaching journey started, and the kind of journey that you've taken over the last couple of years to a rather interesting, well, what was an Olympic and Paralympic year, which obviously has been derailed a little bit. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind taking us through that, your coaching journey.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Grant, and thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, I came to the University of Stellenbosch to study human movements studies at that stage, with the goal of actually going back and teach physical education in schools. Mm-hmm. And partly the main reason for that is I love sports. Still love sports and doing it and actually being involved with that. So that was part of the motivation to do that. And that the people that had the greatest impact in my life at that stage was the coaches throughout my school career. Mm-hmm. So when I got to the university, in my first year, physical education was taken out of school. So suddenly there's my job is going.
Yeah.
Coaching was never an opportunity for a job. It's always been at that stage a volunteer thing. So how am I going to make a living if I don't have a job now? Mm. And as my studies continued, I still did coaching space in my third year, which changed to sports science at that stage. And then the opportunity came to study biokinetics. And during my biokinetics year, the University of Stellenbosch was at that stage the hub for disability sport in South Africa, where the teams come and to train for the Paralympic preparation camps. And the opportunity to volunteer at these camps arose. And I never will be able to express my gratitude for those opportunities being given by Prof. Liz Prezan and Cornelia Rousseau to actually be involved in sport or get involved in sport for persons with disabilities. And that just, touched my heart, incredible. Changed mm-hmm. my view on life, and really just, I got a hold with that. And after that, I met some of the athletes, and Hilton Langenhoven actually came and he approached me and asked if I would be willing to coach him in 2003 going into 2004 towards qualifying for the Athens Paralympic Games. So he was still a student or in school actually. And then my coaching journey started there. So to get me into coaching was all about opportunities given by other people and to take that. And from there onwards, it just became a very nice career to try and follow, although I continued doing my studies and supporting myself from a sports science perspective. Mm-hmm. And then I got opportunity to lecture at the University of Stellenbosch, still funding myself through the lecturing. And mm-hmm. then at the end of 2018, I resigned to try and concentrating completely on coaching and focusing going forward from that. So that's my journey.
That's awesome. So, Suzanne, I mean, it's clear from your journey as being a student at the university and being afforded an opportunity. What do you think? Because I know that there are a few sports science students that have tuned in to watch this episode today. The willingness to take opportunities, and if there aren't opportunities handed to you on a platter, to go out and search for opportunities to gain experience. How important do you think that is for a student who might want to get into coaching in 2, 3, 4 years time?
So Grant, for me it was like I said, most probably the most important ingredient to my career was those opportunities and to take it. And it's not always easy, because you sacrifice evenings when other people might go out, or you sacrifice Saturdays. But in that way, you get connected with people that stand in the field, and you get the opportunity to really ask real life questions and experience what it is. So for me, it's one of the first things I will jump to, is to take that opportunities and make the most of that.
Yeah, I also think it's so important that students don't get stuck in their own little silo. So if they happen to be a good rugby player or a tennis player at school, that is not the sport code that they end up gravitating towards to volunteer at or to get experience in. I think it's so important for students to get out of their comfort zone and go and spend an afternoon at poolside with Coach Cedric and see what it's like within the swimming environment. Would you agree with that kind of outlook?
Definitely, because you learn so much from other people. If you actually follow Eddie Jones a little bit, that is one of his big strengths, is to go and tap into what hockey has been doing, other people has been doing, and use your creative decision making and creative ability to take what you can learn from other sports. So I think it will be, if you can get to other sports, really just open your mind and learn from whoever you can. And coaching is an art and a science, and the art you can learn from every person coaching in the field. And so for the science as well, it's just your application that you need to be creative within.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that, Suzanne. We're going to move on to Maurice. Maurice, from being a high-performing athlete himself and transitioning into a coaching career while also studying sports science. Maurice, your coaching journey, where did you start out with, and how did you end up at MATIES Sport as the head coach of MATIES Athletics?
Well, Grant, I wouldn't say it was a high-performing athletic career, but I have a few national youth championships behind my name, and the same. I can share Suzanne's sentiments. Coaching was never part of the plan back then. I always saw myself as a professional athlete, and I never even had the desire to go and study. I wanted to take a gap year and fully focus on athletics. But my father said, if you after school you have to go study, and the obvious choice, or the only choice for me, was sport, because I love sport. And so I joined Stellenbosch University. I enrolled in the sports science degree, and I must say, and as a senior, my high jump career kind of plateaued. And after I graduated, I had this friend who told me, Maurice, you're a coach, and so I started coaching while I was competing, and I started coaching at various schools, and then I also was part of a private academy. And I started getting known for my coaching abilities, and one of my breakthrough athletes was Enrico Brenkes, who was a senior athlete at the time, and so I helped lead him to his first national championships at USA at under 23 level, and also a silver at senior level. And so people started taking me more serious as a coach. And at this time, I was still competing, trying to do it in the high jump thing. And it just didn't happen. So I directed more to the coaching. And so myself as a high jump came naturally to me. But I also started coaching long jump, sprints, various other events. And what's cool about those events is that I had to learn those events from scratch. Yeah. And people actually, after a while, started to know me more for other events outside of high jump. And from there I just got my coaching qualifications, level 1, level 2, and in 2017 is when ASA reformalized their coaching structure, and they rolled out the national qualification level. And so I was one of the first group of coaches to go for that in Bloemfontein. And yeah, so I got my national qualification a year later, 2017. I heard of the opportunity at Stellenbosch University. I applied, and yeah, the rest is history. So I have the privilege and honor of being the head coach of MATIES Athletics.
Awesome. Well, it's fantastic having you. I wanted to ask you, Maurice, how important is it for you as a coach that you still partake in, professional development activities, whether it's advancing your coaching levels or it's doing some form of course or a short course in, let's say, social media management or anything along those lines that could contribute to your ability to coach your athletes to a high level. How important is that for you?
I think it's very important, Grant, especially because there's this old stigma of coaches that they know everything and they have their set philosophy. But even though the fundamentals of athletics stay the same, there's so many new research coming out of how to enhance performance, and if you're not up to date with those, then you're going to fall behind. And so that's why it's very important to upskill yourself, to, like Suzanne mentioned, learn from other coaches, and not only that, from other experts in various fields, because I think what's happening now is great in that the art of coaching is being married to the science of coaching, and a lot more coaches are becoming more open to the science and research-based side of things, and incorporating that into their philosophy. So that it's a must.
Yeah. And are you finding the student athletes that you are working with these days, if you compare them to when you were a student athlete at Stellenbosch University, is there demand for knowledge and data? Is it greater than it was in the past, or are these student athletes, are they similar to what they were? Have they not changed that much, or is there a noticeable difference for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the age we're living in is so different. I mean, I think when I was first year, Facebook just started, and yeah, I think there was YouTube and all of that, but we didn't have the access that they have today. I mean, when they come to training, they're already overloaded with knowledge, so they come with a different set of questions, they come with a different set of thinking, and so you have to be up to date with the stuff as well. You have to be up to date with the knowledge and with new innovations to be able to answer them. But what's great about it is now it's more like a collaborative relationship, whereas it's not just I'm telling you what to do. They come in with a level of knowledge of, Coach, I read this. What do you think about this article? And yeah, so it's a whole different mindset that today's athletes have, because there's so much at the disposal.
And how was it for you, Maurice? You mentioned that you started to work with Henrico, but you said that he was quite a senior athlete at that stage, but you were still a very young coach in your your number of years coaching and your experience. How was that for you? Was that difficult, being a young coach coming through, kind of learning the ranks and having to work with quite a senior athlete that probably expected to do quite well on the national and international stage?
I think what helped me back then was that I didn't approach it as I wasn't a mature, knowledgeable, say, coach at that stage. I'm still, growing and learning, but I approached the relationship as a friendship. And so he gave me the opportunity and trust, to take him on as a coach. And, we built a trust relationship based on friendship. And we know that this was a journey we're taking on together. So he had something to offer and I had something to offer. And so I think based on that level of trust and friendship, we both were learning as we were going. And up until today, even though he's in Pretoria, we still have a good friendship, because that's what the coaching athlete relationship was started on. And
Awesome.
So that helped me a lot, that he gave me that trust, and that trust gave me confidence to learn more and to grow more as a coach.
Fantastic. I'm going to move on to our next topic or theme, if you want to call it that. Let's just scroll forward, and I think that we can probably answer this together. Whoever really wants to speak first. I think we've got Maurice. You've got a couple of points that you wanted to speak about first, and then Suzanne. But any one of you can go first. We just want to chat a little bit about and discover and learn a little bit about your coaching philosophy and how you approach your coaching and what makes your coaching successful in your eyes. So I'm not sure, Maurice. Maybe you should just take us away first. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind just enlightening us into your philosophy, how you go about doing what you do on a daily basis.
Yeah, Grant. So I've just learned over the years that you're not just dealing with athletes, you're dealing with young men and women. They're human beings, and there's so much, a large part of their life outside of athletics, and you have to have a holistic approach. There's so many factors, socioeconomic factors, relationships. And all of that play a role on their psyche, which they bring to the track. And if that is not in order, then it doesn't matter if you have the best program or periodization, they're never going to reach their optimal peak on the track. And so I think relationship is a great factor when it comes to the coach-athlete relationship. That you build trust with them beyond just on the track. And you make sure that the other areas are optimized, and what's great at being at MATIES is that, we have your physios and your bios, but we also have the sports psychologist, we also have, the academic side that those are facilities and services available for them to make sure that the other areas are also in place, because if that is not in place, then, it doesn't matter what you do on the track, you're not going to get 100% out of them. If the nutrition, if the sleep isn't right, so it's a multifaceted approach, and you have to have a holistic approach when you approach it.
And oh, sorry, I interrupted you there. Yes,
just to go to the next point. I see myself as a teacher, and I say I impart knowledge, and obviously you have to have the solution. So for me, it's a great privilege to go on this journey with the athletes, where they have a goal and they have aspirations, and for you as a coach to come alongside them and say, listen, I have a plan to help you achieve your goal, and this is what it's going to take. And so yeah.
So Maurice, I wanted to ask you, how would you define success for a student athlete that's that's under your tutelage or guidance? So what would success be in your eyes for them as a student athlete?
Well, I'd say it's two key parts for me. It's the obvious one is to attain a worthy goal or ideal, to attain your personal goal or ideal, but also the growth that goes along with that. Because if it could be an Olympic medal, it could be a world championship, a world record, or whatever. But through that process of working towards that, the discipline, the sacrifice, there's so many things that you learn along the way that you can't but become a greater person. We're talking about student athletes when they, it's not only about national or international medals. Once you get that degree, it's just the discipline and sacrifice of attaining all of that. You can't but become a better person, and just the growth of the journey, along with attaining or even not attaining. Even if you don't attain it, that growth of becoming a greater person, being able to contribute, that for me is a sign of success.
Awesome. I would agree with you 100% on that. Suzanne, over to you, your philosophy and how you approach your coaching.
Yeah, Grant, I think I want to start off and say that my coaching philosophy has developed over the years. So for anybody that's young, that's starting off, it's like, I think the very important thing is to go and look at yourself and see what energizes you, because as a coach, that is a part of who you need to live out, and your passion need to come through who you are in your coaching journey. And then along the line, your coaching journey is going to start you and help you to refine that as you go along. So I started off from a very more science perspective in coaching, because that's what I studied. So the first part of my coaching, maybe to put it, so at the moment I hold a philosophy of it's a transformational journey in the context of sport, and I accompany the athlete on this, or not the athlete, this person, on this journey, this transformational journey. And it came about because my whole life I've been a relational person. I value relationships extremely high and the connection with that. So even though I was coach in the beginning with Hilton, we were one-on-one athletes, an individual, or one-on-one, one athlete, one coach starting off. Then it became a team, and I started to wonder, so how does one take relationship one-on-one into a team capacity, into in the individual sport? And then the theme of family came about, and family is I don't know, it's being used so often these days, but for me it's a sense of belonging, and a sense of acceptance, and a sense of giving someone the opportunity to give back to people, but also to receive. So the connection there is really important to hold in family. So that's really an important part for me that I held. And that I actually, if I can tell a story, so in 2012 we were 12 athletes training to go to London, and some of them were youngsters and some of them were older, more advanced athletes, and the theme of family was actually the thing that kept us together and actually encouraged us. And it's actually very interesting now in this lockdown period how the athletes being away misses being a part of the family, and the motivation that comes from it, and the support that comes from it. Although they're still in contact with each other, they miss that part of training. So it's a big part of the philosophy. Then the second thing is to hold it as a journey. In 2013, I would say I had this big come back to earth and rethinking sport in the whole sense. After we had a very good 2012 Paralympics, really, really successful. Coming back, suddenly you ask, okay, what's going to be asked from us now going forward? And in the same year, the Lance Armstrong story came to the fore, and I started to wonder a lot about what pushes people to all these doping scandals. And one of his friends, that recycled with him, I can't remember now his name, he brought out a book. In that book he said that his greatest value as a kid was honesty, but then he doped, and I started to wonder what changes a person from being an honest person to doping. And then I realized there's this huge focus on performance outcomes. So it asked myself, how can I go about? And actually through MATIES Sport, they presented a course with, I can't remember the sports psychologist was here, but it was on Carol Dweck's growth mindset. And it actually put me on a journey of really discovering and want to hold this whole journey with the athletes from a journey perspective, and not a destination and outcome. And then the last thing in the philosophy is on excellence. And excellence for me has three parts in it. It's about the quality of your session. It's about the focus of your session. Like you need to have an intentionality of what you want to achieve. And then lastly, individualization. And that is something that I learned so much in the world of disability sport, to really individualize it for each and every person. So I think, that is my coaching philosophy.
That's awesome. It's always such a pleasure coming down and working with you and the athletes at the track. It's such a welcoming environment, and I think that family environment is very, very much true within your group. There's always smiling faces and lots of laughter and happiness. So it really is a pleasure to get to work with your group of athletes. We're going to move on to the next theme. Let me just go next, and that's just on working with student athletes. And either of you can start off. We all know that this is a very unique age group to work with. These are very young people that are learning about themselves, learning about sports and where they want to go. They're also trying to get degrees and qualifications and just figure out things in the world. They're not professional athletes, a lot of them. So it makes it a very interesting environment to work with. For the two of you working with student athletes, how have you found that over the years?
Yeah, I will
Suzanne,
start.
you're going to go.
Yeah, I can start, Grant. I think
Okay, thanks.
yeah, the first point there for me that it's really, really for me a very interesting age group to work with in a person's life. Coming from school, leaving most of the time home, coming and be on their own. There's so many life questions that comes to the fore, and suddenly they need to learn their time management. They need to learn how to make decisions. They need to learn sometimes how to say no, what other athletes need to do. So it's such a beautiful time for growth to journey with the athlete, but it's also incredibly difficult because they need to learn so much in this time. But that is what a student athlete, I think, makes him very, very special. And then from a coaching perspective, I think because they're learning, and that's the last point I want to touch, is the balancing act between when to give some grace and when to rope them in. It's I don't know, it's in a way maybe like what a parent would be, is like sometimes you need to have discipline, and sometimes you need to let them find their own way in life as well through that. So when to give grace and when to be disciplined is a very, it's a beautiful place to hold it at this stage of their career.
Awesome. Thanks, Suzanne. Maurice, over to you.
Yeah, I can totally agree with Suzanne there, Grant. It's just I have the saying that the only thing more difficult than coaching a student athlete is being a student athlete, and and just the demand of the academic. I mean, Stellenbosch University is a establishment of the highest caliber and credibility, and just the courses that these guys, we're talking about engineers, doctors, accountants, and just to have that academic calendar and coinciding with their training cycles is so intense. So there's so many other factors that you have to consider. Because an athlete might come to a Monday evening, afternoon training session, but then you might find out they only slept for 2 hours because they had to study for a test.
Yeah.
And, but the great positive of it is that they develop this great discipline of after 3-4 years they have this goal of, yes, I want to medal at nationals, or I want to make this team, but I also want to get my first degree. And that's something that nobody can take away from them. Our goal is to have elite performing graduates, and the discipline and the balance that they develop over the time, just sets them up for success in life, and it's a huge privilege, coaching these athletes. Awesome. And so I have a huge amount of respect for them. But like Suzanne also says, you have to almost know when to have grace and know when to be strict on them. Yeah. Because they just have a whole nother lifestyle. They're not a student. They can't just go party whenever they want to, and they're not just an athlete because they have tests, they have exams and assignments and all of that. So yeah.
And what makes the maybe perhaps both of you can comment on this, the USA athletics? We obviously track and field is very much for the large amount of it is a very much an individual sport, but USA athletics in South Africa makes it special. Why is USA special for you guys as coaches?
Suzanne, you can go first, man.
Grant, I think it's a beauty of being part of a team. So USAS, it's a team event. It's, although you get an individual medal, it's at the end of the day which university won, and it's the same for varsity athletics, and it's the same for relay. So whenever individual person is part of a team, it just brings some extra motivation and some extra pride, and most of the time you run faster as part of a relay than as an individual. So that being a part is something that I've picked up, that a lot of athletes, it's to travel with this team, to be a part of a bigger group of a bigger family in that sense, that get together, and there's just a vibe that goes with it that nowhere else in the country in athletics, track and field, to compete in such a competition again where you're part of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I share Suzanne's sentiments. It's just a whole different atmosphere when they, especially when they, not only when they understand the dynamic of the competition, whether it's a varsity or a USA, that every medal counts, or every, IAAF point counts, in regards with varsity athletics, that they have to give their best, and it's not just about them. I think even at an Olympics or a World Athletics Championships, it's where the national team comes together once a year. But with this group, it's like the whole build-up of the season is towards these major championships for them, and just the journey together, the camaraderie, just the sense of belonging, and this is bigger than just me. So for those few weeks, they feel like this is not just an individual sport. I'm part of a team, and my contribution adds value and to the success of the team as a whole, and that just does something to their psyche, and the atmosphere is just great.
Yeah, and Tom and Maurice, obviously the advent of varsity sports, athletics, and getting athletics back onto television more regularly. How has that impacted the sport and track and field athletes at Stellenbosch University?
I think tremendously, Grant. Athletics is always one of those sports that if you talk to anybody, they always say, "Oh, I love athletics," or "I love to watch athletics," but in the past, there's been so few opportunities, and since varsity sports have come along, it's just created a next level platform for athletes to display their talents, and it's done so much for the university and for the athletes that they when they're in school already, they see this on TV, they're like, I want to be a part of this, or I want to go to MATIES and I want to be a part of the MATIES varsity athletics team. And so that's a huge goal. I mean, if you talk to prospective athletes, they want to know about what is the criteria to get into the team. So I believe it does a lot for the sport in terms of creating more interest, awareness, and enthusiasm.
And Suzanne, you've obviously worked with student athletes that have gone on and represented the country at Paralympic level. And how has that been, especially with student athletes that are studying degrees, but then also having this major, arguably the world's biggest competition that comes around every 4 years. For some of them, it might fall slap bang in the middle of let's say their 3 or 4 year academic program. How has that been for you, and how have you managed that as a coach over the years?
Yeah, Grant. I think in that sense, I've learned that a lot of lecturers are very kind, and if you go to them up front and you communicate with them the goal and the dream of the athlete, the student athlete, then I found that most of them are actually very, very keen to help as far as you can. But that also takes a lot of strain on the athlete. So what we normally do in planning is that the first 6 months, they do most of their subjects that they can, so that at the end of the day they still get their credits, humus credits or something at the end of the year. And then the second term, because the Paralympics is normally end of August, you take a little bit of a lower load in your academics. But then when they come back, I remember finally, I think it was 2008, that he came back, and then they have all these tests and exams that comes on top of each other, because they still need to do it in the allocated time before the exams come. So the discipline that the athlete had in the athletics then needs to flow over in the academics, and you just don't really train in that time. You give them all the time to actually prepare for that. So it's really about very good periodization and understanding the athlete, understanding the stresses on them. Because the one thing that we had a World Championships in 2013, straight after the June exams. And never in my life I had so many injuries at the championships and I went back, and the only common factor was that they all sat for long periods of time, and their central nervous system was probably fatigued. And the moment they put their body to the next level, it just couldn't hold up. So I think that is a challenging factor that one needs to hold. But buy-in from everyone. Buy-in from the athlete, and very, very good time management and planning. I think that's the way to.
Yeah, it must be extremely, extremely challenging for a student athlete to go to one of these international competitions, and then let's say at the Paralympics in August, and then have to come back from this huge high, especially if it's been a successful meet for them, and then come back and have to kind of slot into going to class and doing assignments, and it must take a hell of a lot of discipline.
It definitely do. And if you look there at your point 4, dual goals, a degree and a medal, for me, when that athlete receives a degree, is as good as a gold medal at the Paralympic Games, because you know what they went through, you know the sacrifices they needed to make, and all these challenges. So that is an incredible achievement to hold both of that.
That's amazing. We're going to jump onto the next slide just for time purposes. Okay, so the last kind of theme that we're going to chat about before we get into some questions, and if any of the attendees have got any questions that they would like to ask, please pop them in the meeting chat, and I will get to them at the end of the discussion. A couple of attendees have been sending me some WhatsApps as well with a few questions, so we'll get those at the end. So we'll open this up. Maurice, if you want to take us away first, just the MATIES Sport high performance program for you as the head coach of MATIES Athletics. How has that helped you as a coach to make you firstly a better coach, and then to obviously give your student athletes the best possible chance to achieve their athletic best?
Thanks, Ron. So it's always been a dream of mine to be a part of a high performance setup, and 5+ years ago I never could picture it exactly, and when I got the opportunity at MATIES, it was a dream come true, because in order to be successful in any sport, it takes a team, and if you study the greats, great teams, or even individuals, our local athletes like your Wade van Niekerk, Caster Semenya, Kani Simbine, our top athletes, there's a whole team behind them, and the interdisciplinary approach at MATIES Sport is just phenomenal. I mean, with your sport doctors, your bios, your S&C, sports scientists, the sports psychologists, it's so needed, and me as a head coach, you kind of being the link between those people and the athlete. You totally need that structure and holistic approach for the athlete to gain optimal performance. And so it's totally great to be a part of, and
And Suzanne, you've been at MATIES Sport for many years, and you've seen how the program has changed over the years. Let's say from before 2012 to where it is now. How have things changed for you over the years, and hopefully they've all changed for the positive?
They definitely have changed for the positive. So well done to, and specifically, I think Sean Sermon plays a significant part in the growth of that. I think he came to Stellenbosch at 2013, round about there. But up until 2012, from a parasport perspective, there wasn't really any science support for any para athlete, if I can put it that way. So it was all up to us at the department to try and figure things out, and a lot of the time with a lot of goodwill from a lot of the lecturers there supporting and helping. And so it was never like a fluid structure that could help you where you can go like a one-stop basis. And in the build up to 2012, I met Prof. Wayne Derman. He was still then at UCT, but he's now at the Institute for Sports and Exercise Medicine at Tygerberg. And I realized the importance of having a very good relationship with, say, the medical doctor or other people in your support structure. And that sort of became a way of how I would like a high-performance structure supporting an athlete. And looking now at what the system is at MATIES Sport with the MATIES HP unit, and how easily accessible so many of the support structures is, from the technology through to sports psychology, through to the physiotherapists, the doctors, and the streamlining of that system. It came a huge way from 2012 up until now, and it's a lot of credit to everybody involved in the system to make it available. I still, however, feel, being part of the sports science department in the past, that there's so many untapped potential that we can still grow into by using all the knowledge in all the fields. I know there's currently a data science. I think you do it as well, Grant, of course.
Yes.
A campus, and that is a beautiful example of how what's happening across campus can actually influence sport on this side. So it's just so much potential and so much to look forward to if everybody we can actually connect that. So that is
Awesome. Maurice, anything else from your side?
Oh yeah, I just would like to add, Grant, for any great, team, you have, like I said, you have to have a, multidisciplinary approach, and also you have to have a plan, of course. And I mean, the Stellenbosch University has I think a 2040 plan. So they already have a plan for the next 20 years. And at Multisport, we have a 3 to 5 year plan. And we as coaches, we submit a yearly or an annual plan, what we call it. And what's great is you have to have the right structures. You have to have the right vision and plan in place. But what's so great about, being a part of Multisport in the high performance setup is that, even though the structure is there, it's still, fluid in terms of, we keep monitoring, we keep reflecting on how we can do things better. Every time you're coming to the HB office and you present to Sean Sermon, he's always going to challenge you of, are you doing the best that you can do? Can we do it a better way? So he's always challenging you to think, at the next level of how can we improve on this? And that's what's great. And that's how I believe we will continue to move forward in the structure, in the setup.
And Suzanne, I've got a question for you first, and Maurice, feel free to answer as well. What for you, Suzanne, would be the best university athletics club setup, and how would it work, and what is needed to produce this, call it gold standard or world's best university athletics club? What are the kind of building blocks or fundamentals for you that would need to be in place?
Sure, Grant. I think it's this is a very loaded question. I think it's a question that we at Maties Athletics and Maurice, you can help, and has been asking over the last couple of years, really trying to get a setup that can work in the university structure as well as within the national structures that we have in place to follow. But I'm at this moment in lockdown, or I'm thinking that one needs to see what presents itself on a day-to-day or current situation, and what you have available. So one can dream these big plans, but doesn't mean you have that facilities available or funds available. So I think it's evaluating what we have, and at the end of the day, did we empower the athlete to grow as a person and in their sports going forward with everything that is at our availability at this moment, the resources that we have, and so forth. Because it's easy to go and look what they do in America, but we don't have that resources or that structures available. So at the moment, my mind is, what do we have and how can we make the most and optimal from what we have currently, getting the athlete to perform and to become the best human being they can be in this time that they're here. So it must probably be too philosophical, but Maurice, help me out.
Maurice, anything to add on to that?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I said earlier, our goal is to develop elite performing graduates, and culture is such an important factor that you have to have. I believe you have to have a culture that is conducive for success, but also for the growth of the individual, and so we have to cater to both tiers, and yes, like an optimal environment for our elite athletes, but also to create depth, you need to provide an environment that's conducive for your average to good athletes to really hone and develop their talents, to get them to the next level. And so that creating that environment is pivotal.
And Maurice, another question for you. What is it, or what does Maties Athletics need to do in order to get our Maties athletes or our Maties Athletics team onto the podium at varsity sports? I know we've been hovering around 5th, 6th position, and we've slowly been climbing the ladder. But what is it going to take to get Maties Athletics into that gold, silver, or bronze position?
I firmly believe it's just a matter of time, Grant, because if you look at 2017, I think we placed sixth at USA. And then last year, 2019, we finished fourth. So we only finished fourth by 1 or 2 gold medals. And with the structures in place, and like I said, the constant monitoring and reflecting and aiming to improve. I mean, we've experienced now with the prospective applicants for 2021. What surprised me and some of the coaches speaking to the athletes is that the type of athletes or the caliber of athletes wanting to come to Stellenbosch, is a big sign for us that okay, we are busy with the right thing, and I believe the program is really conducive to get us onto the podium. So I think what we're doing is we're on the right track. Obviously with some tweaks and refinement, but I believe it's just a matter of time.
And this can go to both coaches. Suzanne, you've obviously been in the environment for a very long time. Why must student athletes that are track and field athletes, why must they come to Stellenbosch? What makes it special training underneath the mountains there at Kutsenberg?
Maurice, we can go.
I think it was directed at you. I'll answer as well.
Yeah, both of you can answer. Anyone can go first. Maurice, maybe you can take us away.
I think there's so many factors. Yes, the aesthetics, the beauty of being under the mountain, just all the facilities. Just to go back to adding to Suzanne's answer on the previous question is that I think it's about utilizing or optimal utilization of what is at your disposal. And with all the facilities and services and the teams that we have behind us, it's just phenomenal. I know a bit of what's going on at other universities, but I really believe it's one of the best structures and systems in place. And it also it's empowering to the athletes. I mean, if you meet the athletes, so that's what we have going kind of with the development program where we have the prospects meet up with senior athletes and have conversations with them. We have parents have conversations with them because, I mean, if anybody's going to tell you what it's like to be at MATIES, it's our current student athletes, and they are our testimony. And I mean, they can speak for themselves, but it's just once you meet them, the prospects are so wowed and in awe of what we have going, and I believe. I mean, we have a great media team, but it's still not out there that what we really have. People still have an old mindset of what's going on at MATIES Athletics or Stellenbosch. But if they really, come to know, okay, what do we actually have at our disposal? What do we have, the programs that we have in place, the people that we have here, it'll definitely, change their mind.
Awesome. Suzanne, anything to add from your side?
Grant, I love the office view at MATIES Athletics. I do. You touch on the mountains. That is really exceptional. But no, more than that, the vibe of what Stellenbosch University offers. I enjoyed it as a student, and I do think that's one of the big things. It's a town. It's not a campus away from it. It's a full town embodied into that. So that brings a big part of a culture. But then, like Maurice said, he only started as head coach in a new type of, I want to say, journey with MATIES Athletics in 2017. And it's a program that's extremely new. And if you have a new program, there will sometimes be hiccups. But the beauty of it is you're starting off and you're building something. And if you come to Bosch, you're going to be part of something that we're building towards, and that is a beauty. You can come and add value to the MATIES Athletics program because we're in the infancy, we're building towards something, and we would like everybody to contribute.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's come out of a lot of these connected coaches is that if you do come to Stellenbosch University as a student athlete, you will leave being a better person, and you will definitely leave being a better athlete. So I think that cuts across all of the different sports codes, and athletics would definitely be one of those. Coaches, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I appreciate you taking 45 minutes out of your day to chat to me and for me to get to know you a little bit better and understand your coaching philosophies a little bit more. So thank you very much for taking the time out. We really appreciate all that you do for MATIES Sport and representing us on the national and international stage. It's been fantastic to chat to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Grant. Thanks a lot. Thanks, everybody.
So, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. So next week, for everybody, we have our final Connected Coaches episode, where we have a mystery guest that will be attending. So please tune in. It will be our final, our 8th and our final Connected Coaches episode. So I'm looking forward to it. It will be a fun one. Thank you very much for joining us again today.